The black limousine, long and gleaming, rolled out from the gates of the Forrester mansion just after sunrise. Inside, tension lingered beneath the polished silence. The trip to the private airstrip was supposed to be simple: 1 hour, straight to the tarmac, then wheels up to Paris for a last-minute couture showcase. But as always in the Forrester world, nothing ever stayed simple. Seated inside the vehicle were Ridge, Brooke, Hope, Liam, Steffi, Finn, and Thomas. Packed tighter than usual due to last-minute logistics and Brooke's insistence that they all travel together like a family. The ride began in silence, broken only by the occasional cough from Ridge or Brooke's attempt to lighten the mood with forced laughter. Hope stared out the tinted window, her phone clutched in her hand but unused. Liam sat beside her, arms crossed, while Thomas kept sneaking glances in her direction, his expression unreadable. Across from them, Steffi leaned into Finn's shoulder, whispering something only he could hear. Ridge sat at the far end, next to Brooke, who had one hand on his knee, her thumb moving back and forth in a rhythm that didn't match the tension building in the cabin. 15 minutes into the drive, they hit the canyon pass. Traffic was light. The sun had begun to climb higher, casting long shadows on the narrow two-lane road that wound through the hills. The driver took a sharp turn just a little too quickly, and suddenly, the vehicle jerked. Tires screeched. Horns blared. Another car had swerved into their lane, a reckless driver in an SUV trying to overtake on a blind curve. The limousine veered violently, crashing into the guardrail with a thud that sent everyone tumbling. Airbags deployed. Glass shattered. The vehicle rocked once, then went still. No one was seriously hurt, but the chaos immediately sent panic through the group. The driver was shaken, bloodied but conscious. Brooke's arm had been bruised from the impact. Liam had a gash above his eyebrow. Hope was visibly rattled but unharmed. The rest were shaken. They stumbled out one by one, coughing and blinking in the harsh daylight. The SUV had stopped 50 yards ahead, its front end crumpled, its driver already sprinting toward them, shouting apologies. No one was in the mood to talk. Emergency services were called, but with limited cell reception and the remote location, help would take time. That's when things got worse. A rockslide, triggered by the vibration of the crash and the shifting weight of the vehicles on the narrow road, slammed into the rear of the limousine, splitting the road and forcing the group to scramble. Dust exploded. A slab of stone crushed part of the vehicle's back end. The road was now blocked entirely. They were stranded. There was no cell service, no access to another vehicle, and no guarantee the police would reach them before nightfall. Ridge quickly took charge, splitting the group in two. Steffi and Finn would hike up the ridge to try and get a signal. Liam and Hope would stay with the injured driver and flag down any passing cars. Ridge, Brooke, and Thomas would try to find another route down the mountain. The group split reluctantly, each pair walking into separate danger and deeper secrets. As Steffi and Finn climbed, sweat clinging to their necks, their initial optimism faded. They hadn't spoken in detail since Luna's return, and now, alone in the hills, old resentments surfaced. "You didn't tell me Luna was alive until you were sure she couldn't come between Hope and Thomas," Finn accused. Steffi turned to him, eyes sharp. "You think I kept it from you? That I wanted this chaos?" Finn didn't answer. They kept walking in silence, both knowing the truth wasn't so simple. Steffi had always been strategic, and Luna's reappearance had thrown every alliance into flux. Down below, Hope and Liam tended to the driver, who was now awake but woozy. As they laid him against a rock for shade, Hope finally turned to Liam. "Why didn't you tell me you went to see Luna before the crash?" she asked. Liam blinked, startled. "Who told you that?" "She did," Hope said flatly. "She remembers more than you think." Liam sighed, running a hand through his hair. "I want to see if she was okay. That's it. I didn't tell you because I knew how you'd react." "How I'd react?" Hope shot back. "You lied." Again. Because every time I talk to another woman, you see betrayal. Maybe because it always ends up being one. Silence again. Up the road, Ridge, Brooke, and Thomas were walking along the cliff edge. Thomas had taken the lead, Brooke limping slightly behind, her arm beginning to bruise. Ridge kept trying to comfort her, but her silence was unsettling. Finally, Thomas turned. "We need to talk about what happened in Italy." Ridge looked at him, hard. "Not now." "Yes, now. While we're cut off. While there's no PR team, no lawyers, no Taylor." Brooke sighed. "Thomas, you knew Luna was alive. You knew. And you said nothing to protect your narrative, your story with Ridge." Ridge stepped forward. "Back off." "No," Thomas said. "This is the pattern. Secrets wrapped in good intentions. It's what got us here. The limo crash, this hike, all of it. It's a physical metaphor for how broken we are." Brooke finally spoke. "I didn't know she survived until Lee confessed. And when she did, I was the one who told Hope." Thomas laughed bitterly. "After she was almost buried. That's when they heard a scream. From below. Hope." Ridge took off running, Brooke stumbling after him. Thomas hesitated, then followed. When they arrived back at the site, Hope was kneeling over Liam. He'd collapsed, dizzy from blood loss. The head wound was worse than they'd thought. The driver was unconscious again. Ridge checked Liam's pulse. "We need help now." And then, for the first time in hours, a miracle, Steffi and Finn's voices echoed down the canyon. "We found a signal." 20 minutes later, a rescue helicopter hovered over the ridge. The group was airlifted out, one by one. But the damage had been done. And not just to their bodies. In the days that followed, the group returned to Los Angeles, battered physically, but emotionally shredded. Hope asked Liam for space. Thomas cut off all communication with Ridge. Steffi confronted her father about Brooke's increasing influence. Finn moved out temporarily. Brooke gave a press statement to cover the incident, spinning it as an unfortunate accident during a routine trip. But inside Forrester, whispers buzzed. What really happened in those hills? What broke them so badly that nothing felt the same? Ridge sat alone in his office one night, staring at an old sketchbook. He flipped through page after page until he landed on a drawing of the whole family, smiling, happy, fictional. Then he took out a pen and began crossing faces out, one by one. Because the crash didn't just crack the road. It cracked the dynasty. And from now on, nothing would hold it together. In the heart of Rome, under a brilliant Italian sky that painted the ancient buildings in gold, the famed Piazza Navona buzzed with anticipation, though only one man knew why. Nick Marone stood at the center of it all, the ancient fountains whispering history around him, his heart pounding beneath a tailored navy suit. He'd flown halfway across the world to prepare something unforgettable. Brooke Logan was in Italy for a fashion event with Forrester Creations, and Nick was going to seize the moment to give them another shot, one final chance to rewrite the ending they never got right. The crew he'd hired was in position, string quartet tuning softly near Bernini's Fountain of the Four Rivers, lanterns being quietly placed around the perimeter, rose petals discreetly hidden in bags by cafe waiters ready to release them at his signal. He had timed everything to the second. At 6:00 p.m., Brooke would walk into the piazza with Ridge, unaware that Ridge had been paid off to step aside for the evening, thanks to Nick's strategic investment in a local art exhibit Ridge had conveniently agreed to attend across town. The moment would belong to them. But Nick underestimated the one person who had been silently watching everything unravel, Dr. Taylor Hayes. Taylor had arrived in Rome that very morning, claiming to be attending an international psychology conference. In truth, she'd caught wind of Nick's intentions through a careless assistant at a travel agency in LA. Taylor had history with both Brooke and Nick, and she knew exactly what a public proposal from Nick would mean. Not just for Brooke, but for Ridge. For everything Taylor had fought for. She wasn't going to let Brooke steal another man, not this time. By mid-afternoon, Taylor was already moving. She made her way through the cobblestone streets, phone in hand, watching Brooke's movements via a shared itinerary. Taylor had convinced Steffi to forward under the pretense of wanting to surprise everyone. She confirmed that Ridge was off-site, confirmed that Brooke would be at Café Fornello around 5:45, just a block from the piazza. She had exactly one shot to intercept the event and make sure Nick's grand gesture blew up before it ever had a chance. As the sun dipped lower, casting a honeyed glow over the city, Brooke emerged from the cafe, elegantly dressed in a cream-colored dress, her hair cascading effortlessly over her shoulders. She looked timeless. She looked at peace. She didn't know that peace was about to shatter. Nick stood in the middle of the square, pretending to admire a sculpture, but every nerve in his body was alert. He spotted Brooke in the distance, his cue given. The quartet began playing Vivaldi. Cafe lights blinked to life. The waiters inched toward their cue. Brooke stepped forward. But so did Taylor. "Brooke," Taylor called, stepping into the square from the opposite direction. Brooke stopped mid-step, eyes narrowing. She hadn't seen Taylor in weeks. "Taylor? What are you doing here?" Taylor offered a tight smile. "I was just wondering the same about you." She glanced sideways at Nick, who now walked toward Brooke, holding a small black velvet box. The moment was seconds away. But Taylor stepped directly between them. "Don't," she said, holding a hand out toward Nick. "Taylor, this isn't your business," Nick said calmly, but his jaw was clenched. "Oh, it's very much my business when two families get ripped apart by recycled fantasies." Brooke looked from Taylor to Nick, confusion dawning. "What is this?" Nick didn't respond to Taylor. He turned to Brooke and began to speak. "Brooke, we've been through fire. We've hurt each other. But we've also found peace in chaos. And I've never stopped believing that." "Don't you dare," Taylor cut in, stepping closer. "You're manipulating her. She's vulnerable. Ridge just lost his son. Her daughter's life is in ruins. And you come here with a ring." "I came here with love," Nick growled. "Something you've twisted into jealousy for years." "This isn't about jealousy," Taylor snapped. "This is about patterns. About how every time Brooke's life hits turbulence, someone swoops in with a grand gesture and convinces her to jump off another cliff. Don't let him make you forget what you've built back home." Brooke's hand shook. She looked at Nick, then at Taylor. "You knew about this? You followed me." "I came to stop a disaster," Taylor said. "One more leap backward." "I'm not some fragile woman who can't make choices," Brooke said through clenched teeth. "And I don't need you to speak for me." Nick took a knee. "Then choose. Right here. Right now." Brooke's breath caught. The piazza fell silent. Taylor stood frozen. For a moment, it seemed the city itself held still. Brooke looked down at Nick, at the ring glinting in the golden light. Then she looked at Taylor, whose eyes pleaded not out of cruelty, but desperation. Brooke shook her head. "I can't." Nick's face fell. "I'm not saying no," Brooke said. "But I'm not saying yes, not like this. Not with someone standing here accusing me of ruining lives." "You don't need my voice to tell you the truth," Taylor said softly. "You've always known it." Nick stood up. "This isn't over." Taylor crossed her arms. "For once, I hope it is." Nick turned and walked away, the pedals unreleased, the string quartet now awkwardly finishing the last notes as waiters pretended nothing had happened. Brooke stood in the square, staring at the ring still clutched in Nick's hand as he disappeared into the crowd. She said nothing. Taylor approached her slowly. "I know I crossed a line. But I couldn't watch you make the same mistake again." "You never trusted me," Brooke said quietly. "You always saw me as a threat, even when I was trying to find peace. Because peace with you always ends with someone else broken." Brooke turned away, eyes misting, voice low. "Then I guess we were never really friends. Just women circling the same battlefield." Taylor didn't respond. The bells of Rome rang out. The lights of the piazza dimmed. And somewhere far above them, The weight of decades pressed down once again on two women who could never walk the same path without colliding. As night settled over the Eternal City, one proposal had been stopped, but nothing was resolved. And the war for Brooke's heart had only just begun.